All right, guys, today we are going to talk about squaring binomials. That means a binomial raised to the second power. And a lot of what we do today is going to just be kind of reviewing what we did last week with multiplying binomials, except we're going to kind of add in one step a little bit. When we square a binomial, hopefully we know that squaring anything means that you are multiplying that quantity by itself. So when we square a binomial, the first step that we are always going to have is going to be to expand that binomial into a multiplication problem. So we're going to expand it and write it as a binomial times another binomial. So for example, in that first problem, when I say expand, what I really mean is instead of writing this as x plus 8 to the second power, we're going to write this as x plus 8 times itself, times x plus 8. So expanding just means that we're rewriting this as a binomial times itself. Once we have done that, our second step is that we're just going to multiply those two binomials. And so you can use any of the methods that we learned last week. So remember, we learned how to FOIL, we learned how to use the distributive property, and we learned the table method. Here, for these examples, I'm going to use the FOIL method. So remember, FOIL means we multiply our first terms, so the first term in each binomial. In that case, this is at x and x, so x times x is x squared. Then we multiply our outer terms, so that means the 2 on the outside. In this case, that x and 8 are on the outside, so x times 8 is plus 8x. Then we multiply our inner terms. Here that would be this middle 8 and the middle x. So again, 8 times x is positive 8x. And our last step is multiplying those last terms. So the last term in each binomial in this case is 8 times 8. So 8 times 8 is positive 64. Okay, so we've multiplied. Now we can go ahead and we can combine like terms. So that those two 8x's, those are like terms. We can go ahead and combine there. And we have x squared plus 16x plus 64 for our final answer. So then that would be our answer. So x squared plus 16x plus 64. Okay, so really the only thing new here is expanding these binomials to write it as a multiplication problem. The biggest mistake I see on these problems is students just trying to square everything inside. So just saying, well, 2m squared is 4m squared, and 3 squared is 9. And when you do that, you're really not squaring the binomial because you're multiplying 2m times just 2m and you're multiplying 3 times just 3. And that's not what this means. This means the entire expression multiplied by the entire expression again. So don't just distribute that square inside. Make sure you expand like we just did. So if we were going to do one more problem here together, we could say that this is 2m minus 3 times, again, 2m minus 3. So we expand and then we multiply. Okay, so again, if I use the distributive property, if I use the FOIL method, that means I multiply my first terms. So 2m times 2m. Remember, we multiply those coefficients. 2 times 2 is 4. And then we multiply those variables. M times m is m to the second power. So we have 4m squared. Then I multiply my outside. So 2m times minus 3 is going to give me minus 6m, right? We're multiplying 2 times negative 3. That's negative 6m. Then we can do our inner, which again, we have negative 3 times 2m. That's going to be another minus 6m. And our last terms here, negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. So if I go ahead and combine like terms now, I'm left with 4m squared minus 12m, right? Negative 6m minus 6m is going to be negative 12m plus 9. So this is our final answer then for this problem, 4m squared minus 12m plus 9. I'm going to go ahead and skip that problem. I think you're probably getting the hang of this by now. If you want an extra practice problem, that would be one that you can try on your own. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to kind of apply this to a real world problem. So it tells us here that a square patio is surrounded by a brick walkway as shown. What is the area of the walkway? So we know that we have a area, and here the dimension of the entire patio and walkway together is this x plus 6 in length. We know that the inside, just the patio without the walkway, that's a square with length x by x. And we know that the walkway is 3 feet wide. So if we want to find the area of just the walkway, one way to do that would be to find the area of the entire square, the patio including the walkway, and then subtract away the area of the inside. Okay, so that's what we're going to do here. We're going to find the area of the whole thing and subtract out the middle part, that middle square that we do not care about. So really, that's the area of the first square. Well, that would be x plus 6 squared, right? The area of that square, minus the area of the inside square. Well, that side length is x, and x times x is x squared. So this first expression, that represents the entire patio plus walkway. And the second expression, that second term, represents the inside term that we're subtracting away. So here, this binomial, to square it, we need to follow those steps we just talked about. We're going to go ahead and expand that. So that would be x plus 6 times x plus 6. And I'm going to go ahead and keep this minus x squared so I don't forget that. Well, if we go ahead and we FOIL here, we know x times x is x to the second power. X times 6 is positive 6x. 6 times x is plus 6x. And 6 times 6 is 36. So this is what I get from multiplying those two binomials. And I still have, at the end, minus x squared. Now I can go ahead and I can combine like terms. In this case, we have x squared and we have minus x squared. So those like terms are going to end up kind of canceling out here. So those x's cancel out. And I am left with 6x plus 6x, which is 12x, plus 36. So my final answer, my final simplified expression is 12x plus 36. All right. Right here we have a few practice problems. This is just like the ones that we just did above. You have a couple options. You can either pause this video and try these two problems right now, or you can kind of keep going and come back to these at the end. It's up to you. So if you want to pause, go ahead and do that right now. And then when you're finished with these two practice problems, you can go ahead and resume the video. The next thing we're going to talk about is kind of a special case here, and it's multiplying a sum and a difference. And really, we're not going to treat this any differently. It's just that our answer is going to be ever so slightly different than our previous answers have been. So here you can see that we have x cubed plus 8 times x cubed minus 8. So when we say multiplying a sum and a difference, really we mean the same term plus some number and then the same term minus that number. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just start to FOIL this problem. So when I multiply those first terms, x cubed times x cubed, I keep my base, I add my exponents, we get x to the 6th power. When I go to do my outer terms, that would be negative 8 times x cubed, which is minus 8x to the 3rd. For my inner terms, I get plus 8x to the 3rd. And for my last terms, 8 times negative 8 is negative 64. So what's kind of special about this problem is that our middle terms end up canceling out because we have minus 8x cubed plus 8x cubed. So really what we're left with here is x to the 6th power minus 64. And so that would be our answer here to this problem fully simplified. So whenever you have a sum and a difference like that, you can expect those middle terms to cancel out there. All right, so that is all we have for today. There are a few more problems down here for you to try just as practice. I want you guys to pick 2 of these problems. You don't necessarily have to do all 3, but you can pick 2 to try on your own, whichever 2 you want. And if you didn't already, make sure you do go back and do those 2 practice problems that were a little bit earlier before as well. So go ahead, try those few problems. If you guys have questions on any of these, or if there's something in this video that you're not sure about, make sure that you're sending me an email or a message today so that I can help you out with that. I will be on email or on Canvas messages all day until 3 o'clock.